We'll be able to see this shortly. So without further ado, guys, I'll get going. I'm pretty sure I know everyone on the call, but as a brief introduction, my name is Jack Burns. I'm the Director of Sports Performance here at JFC. I primarily work with the MLS Next group, so U13 through U19s. But obviously this year we've onboarded STATSports with our MLS2 and E64 groups as well. And I've worked closely with our MLS2 director, Danny Villarreal, to onboard those teams as well this year. Tonight, obviously, I know there's a lot of questions regarding new technology that is sometimes quite complicated to first set up, quite a lot of things to kind of navigate on the front end, and this, as I mentioned earlier to those who are on, this is kind of in lieu of what we had planned last week, but the hurricane kind of got in the way of that with some education for the players on site at Patton Park. But with that being said, we have Brooklyn Radcliffe here today, who's full-time with STATSports and kind of the experts when it comes to the hardware and the software. And she's here to really kind of guide us through that player tutorial of from everywhere from that first setup to joining a team to how we use it on a daily basis, whether that's a team session or a individual session, and then everything after the fact. So obviously the syncing of the device, the charging of the device, and then also the kind of analytics that we're able to go into that we really value at JFC, obviously looking at the pathway, comparing our players to where they want to get to, whether that's NCAA Division 1 players or professional players. I think that's the really unique thing with STATSports, is that they're able to now go in and not only compare themselves against their peers, but also compare themselves to kind of those benchmarks where we're really striving for. So with that being said, today hopefully it's going to be short and sweet. It's a Friday night, so I don't want to take up too much of time. So as mentioned previously, if you do have questions, shoot them into the chat box, so we don't really burn up too much time going into details of any particular question that might only be pertinent to yourself. If you shoot them across into the text box, I can do my best to answer them, or I'll put you in contact with STATSports, who might now be able to answer that a bit more in detail. So there will be no Q&A officially today. Again, just shoot those messages into the chat box feature. Secondary to that, again, stay on mute as much as you can. The video is being recorded, and we'll share that via the team snaps and the managers as well at a later date. The generic questions that I do find in the group chat, I will then ask them to Brooklyn at the end of the chat, so she can now go into detail about, okay, it might be, okay, I'm not able to join a team because the code's not working, although the code might be perfect. It might be the GPS is not turning on and I'm not hearing the 3 beeps. All of these questions we'll try our best to answer throughout the course of the webinar. So I think that's all I have for you guys. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing. Brooklyn, if you'd like to go ahead and share your screen, and I'll be quiet and leave it up to yourself.
You got it. Let's see. So I guess first question is, do you guys have your equipment already?
Yes, everyone has their vest and their GPS unit.
Fabulous. Are you able to see my screen right now, or not quite yet?
Not yet.
Here we go. There we go. Can you see everything all right?
I think it's just loading. Yeah, perfect. We've got you.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said you had all of your vests and equipment already?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And all that's distributed out.
Yeah.
And do you know if most of the players are paired up and have created accounts already?
Yes, I believe I'd say upwards of 80%, and there's still probably 20% of the players still figuring that out and stuff like that.
Fabulous. So, and I'll kind of get into it a little bit later, but for those who haven't quite used it in either a game or a practice session yet, I would highly recommend turning that pod on and just setting it outside for 30 minutes, because sometimes in order for that pod to connect to that GPS signal, it might take quite a bit on that first connection, just because it's coming from Ireland to our warehouse, then to you guys. So just go ahead and just have them set it outside for 30 minutes so you guys can avoid that bump when trying to use it, okay? So please, if there's any questions during, feel free to interrupt me and then we can go over it then. But otherwise, we'll kind of just jump right into it. So what you guys should have received was a box with your Apex performance vest, your GPS performance tracker. You should have had a USB charging cable, and then also a nice little traveling pouch to avoid breaking or damage, which again, it should not be broken or damaged at all, but just in case. So the Apex Athlete Series is utilized on a mobile device. So if you have an Apple or iPhone or an Android, go ahead and just go to the store or type in Apex Athlete Series and download from there. It should be quick and easy. It's not able to be utilized on a web browser, unlike the Coach Series, so that does differ there. So when you open up the app for the first time, and it sounds like most of you guys have already gone through this process, for iPhone users, it's going to ask to utilize your Bluetooth. Go ahead and allow that because it does need Bluetooth in order to pair pods, to sync sessions, and it just allows for better tracking. When you create an account, it's going to ask for your email and create a password, and then it's going to go ahead and have you verify your email. For Android users, once you get past this part, it's going to ask to utilize your location. Again, for better tracking, please accept this and allow this on your phone. And to pair the tracker. So if you guys shouldn't be having any issues on this portion, we did just have an update that kind of threw a wrench in some of the process with pairing phones. So if that's an issue, please let me know. So when pairing the phone or when pairing your pod for the first time, you guys are just going to click on, I guess, in order to pair the pod or in order to create an account, you have to have a pod. And so one pod is specific to one account. You can't have multiple accounts with one pod, and you can't have multiple pods on one account. Okay. So it's going to bring up this screen once you get through that login information. You're going to go ahead and turn on your pod, and it's going to come up with a 4-digit code. So this means that it's not paired yet. On your mobile device screen, it's going to ask you to input that 4-digit code. Once you do that, you can go ahead and press next, and then you can go ahead and name the code or name your pod. With naming your pods, we highly recommend that you're choosing a name that somebody is actually going to be able to recognize instead of a nickname like Fluffy Bunny, because sometimes they do get left behind and then they have no idea who these pods actually belong to. So once that pod is paired, you can go ahead and finish completing your profile. So you can choose your full name, if you're male or female, your date of birth, and then some specific stats like height and weight. So height and weight, try and make it as accurate as possible because it does play into a few metrics like calorie, speeds, and step balance. Okay. And then for players, you do have to be at least 13 years of age in order to utilize the app, just simply by law. So you can either have your parents use that, which I kind of recommend, or you can just adjust the birth date and you can always go back and adjust it after. Once you finish creating your profile, get a little bit more specific. So you can go ahead and choose your sport. So obviously soccer in this case, go ahead and choose your position. If you're a goalie, unfortunately, we don't have a goalie position at this time. So just go ahead and choose another one. It's not super specific. It's not going to affect your metrics in any way. So this part doesn't really matter. It's more specific to you. Then you can go ahead and choose a pro benchmark. And this can always be altered going back in the app. So you can choose either a league, you can choose one of our pro ambassadors. If you're under 18, you can also choose one of our academy benchmarks that's specific to gender and age groups as well. So for every player who has our Apex Athlete Series pod, they have the ability to download their metrics and their performance information to their head coach's app. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And Coach, are you set up on Coach Series already? Have you explored that a bit, or any of your coaches?
Yes, so all of our coaches, so we have 3 coaches on the MLS next level, so 15s through 19s, and then all of our coaches, I believe there's 4 across 6 groups. Okay. All of them are set up.
Perfect. And did she go over that presentation with you for the Coach Series? That should have been like the first. onboarding call?
We have done one, yes. So we've
Okay, fabulous. Fabulous. Alrighty. So in order for players to actually start sharing that information and for coaches to actually be able to start using it, you guys have to be added to a squad first. So this one, please pay attention to, because this is where most of the confusion lies when not being able to access or join a squad. So where we're going to go is, if you see down here in this dashboard, you want to go to the More section. When you click on More, you'll see a list of items. You're going to go ahead and choose Apex Coach Series Connect. Once you click on that, this screen will pop up and you'll choose Add and then enter invite code. So that 4-digit code that your coaches have provided for you, that is where you're going to input this code and be able to join a team or request to join a team. So where a lot of the confusion comes from is players will go here into community. When you choose community, it'll say add a team. What you want to see is add squad. So if you're adding a team, this is for you to compete against players, friends, other people, and you can see leaderboards, but your coaches will not have access to this information. So make sure you're going to More, Apex Coach Series Connect, and adding a squad. Squad is that keyword there. So for like E64 right now, we are creating leaderboards. So here you guys are going to go to a third-party API. So if you guys want to share this with any third parties, I don't know what you guys might use. I know like Smartabase is a common feature that people use. If you go to Athlete API ID, for the very first time, you guys can auto-generate a code, and that's going to be a code specific to you. So if you're sharing it with any third parties, all of your data or metrics are now going to be uploaded and shared with whatever party you're using. So for E64, STATSports is currently creating leaderboards where the E64 organization can kind of compete and share their information with each other. So it's not perfected yet. We're kind of going step by step, but eventually that'll be smooth and flawless, and then you guys can compete against each other. Alrighty, so for recording your first session, obviously, please make sure your charger or your pod is charged. Sometimes we can be a bit forgetful. Luckily, our pod does have over 6 hours of battery life, so you shouldn't necessarily have to be charging it every single time between sessions, but just, double check here and there. When you're going to go ahead and turn on that tracker, make sure Bluetooth is enabled. Because you guys have already paired it that very first time when creating your accounts, it should be a fairly quick process for your pod to connect to the GPS signal. So that's why I'm saying go leave it outside for 30 minutes before anything. So when you come to a practice or a game, this is going to be a fairly quick process. However, it might take 3 to 5 minutes to actually connect to GPS. So you'll know that it's connected and tracking your information once you hear those 3 beeps. Once those 3 beeps are, once you hear those 3 beeps, you're good to go. And now it's starting to track. Okay. You can go ahead, and what I recommend, because it can actually be a little bit tricky to put the pod into the vest, just take the vest off first, go ahead and insert that pod. So if you see here on this right-hand side, the pod should look just like this when inserting into the vest. So you should see the LED screen, and the USB port should be faced down. So this is really crucial to how your data is being tracked. Okay. And then just go ahead and put the vest on after that, unless somebody's helping you. All right, so once a session is completed, go ahead and turn that session off, or turn your pod off. If a session has been successfully tracked, it should say stopping, and then it'll turn off. Then you're going to go ahead and turn that tracker back on. You're going to go into the app. Again, make sure your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are connected so that you're able to actually sync your data from the tracker to the app. I don't have a picture of it, but there will be a little section on the dashboard that says sync. You'll click on that. Then you'll have the option to sync your sessions as either a personal session or a squad session. So a personal session is going to be anything that's not scheduled by a team. If you're doing like extra practice on the side or extra conditioning or anything like that, that you don't necessarily want your coaches saying, or is not really relevant to them. For any practice or games or conditioning that is scheduled by the team, you're going to go ahead and choose squad session. And if you're part of multiple teams, you'll have the option to choose what team you want to sync. So from there, coaches, so this would be choosing a squad session. So coaches should have already inputted sessions on the calendar. So you'll be able to just easily download to or choose a session that you want to download to, and then it'll just go easily to the coach series side. From there, you can still choose if it's a practice or a game. You can name the session, you can choose your position, and then also the start and end time. Next, you can go ahead and set the boundaries of the pitch. Again, everything will also be done on the coach series side. So you can set your own boundaries from here, press next, and then you'll be able to start seeing your metrics from there. So just a few different ways to analyze and kind of what you're seeing. So for the Apex Athlete Series, the app or your metrics are divided up into 3 categories just for easier use. So you have your volume, your speed, and your cardio category, okay? So with the volume, you're gonna have your total distance. So this is distance accumulated from running, jogging, walking, accelerating, decelerating, just basically your total work rate. You have your high intensity distance. So this is a combination of all your high speed running and your distance accumulated while accelerating and decelerating. You have your high speed running, which is your distance covered over 5.5 meters a second. And then you also have your distance per minute. So this is a really good work rate. So it's how much distance you're covering over the total duration of your session. In the volume tab, so basically if you see right here on this left-hand side where it says total distance, this is what all of your metrics under the volume tab are going to look like. So here you'll have, you'll see your rating or your score. Then you'll also see the average for your community and also for the pro benchmark that you've chosen to compare yourself against. Right below that, if you click 5-minute breakdown, it is now going to give you a 5-minute breakdown of that metric and how much you're accumulating over time. So this is really useful, you know, if you're in a game to see at what point maybe intensity is increased or maybe, you know, total distance where you start to drop off and where those fatigue levels start hitting so that you can adjust your practice to kind of reflect and prevent that decline. You'll also see your heat maps, which is basically just showing you where you're spending the most time on the field and where you're actually traveling to. And then you also have your zonal maps. So it's just splitting the field into 3 quarters and giving you an estimate of how much time you're spending in each part of the field. For the speed category, for the speed tab, you have your max speed. So this is going to be the max speed you achieve during your session. This isn't calculating your personal best, which will be something that we get into later on. You have the total number of sprints you accumulated during each session. So it's important to note that you have to hold a sprint for at least a second. And when you first download the app, I believe it's defaulting to either 5.5 or 6 meters per second. So sometimes that might be a little high for athletes to actually reach. So if they're not quite at that level, you're going to go ahead and we'll get into that. You're just going to want to change the sprint entry speed maybe to a little bit lower level so they're actually accumulating this data. Because if it's too high, they're not reaching it, they're going to see 0 sprints and it might be a little bit confusing for you guys. And the speed volume, you also have your acceleration, speed, and deceleration. So how much you're speeding up and slowing down over 3 meters a second squared. And then you also have your step balance. So this is actually one of my favorite. So this is basically showing you how much impact each side, so right to left, is getting over a session. So this should be relatively a 50-50 ratio. However, you know, give or take 2 is normal, but if you're starting to get to 3 or 4 or 5, this could be a sign for potential injury, or maybe you are coming back from an injury. So you're going to see some disparity like that. So also within your speed entry, so you'll also get that 5-minute breakdown and that comparison to your community and your pro benchmark. Then you'll also have a sprint map, which is pretty cool. So this is showing you where on the field you are performing those sprints, what directions, and the relative distance of each of those sprints. Now for cardio, do you guys have heart rate monitors for your team or not quite?
We do not. We only have the external GPS.
Yeah. Okay. So then this this tab is going to kind of be irrelevant to you guys unless you get the heart rate monitors. And I highly recommend, whether it's through STATSports or just a side heart rate monitor, both can pair to our app. I do highly recommend this because this is great insight into intensity, strain, and overall workload for your athletes. So in cardio, you're going to go ahead and see your max heart rate for the session. You can see the average heart rate achieved, and then also time in red zone. So time in red zone is how much an athlete is spending in 85% of their max heart rate. So this is a really key metric because you want to achieve that to ensure fitness levels are staying high, but at the same time, too much time in the red zone is going to likely transfer to fatigue in your athletes and possible injury. So these are really cool metrics to have. In live workouts, you can also see your current heart rate. And then we also have intensity and strain. So if you guys have already kind of used the app a little bit, once the session is tracked, this screen here will pop up. So this is kind of the only place at the moment where you can see intensity and strain. So they use a bar graph from very low to very high and just give you a rating right here on that front screen of your overall session. So intensity is basically measuring the amount of high intensity distance covered during a session. This is also a really good indicator of internal load. So again, if you have that heart rate monitor, this is going to give you a little bit more accurate data on the total intensity of a session for an athlete. So it's very individualized. And then strain is a metric that is referring to the external load placed on the body. So this is heavily dependent on more like biomechanics and step impacts and running mechanics. Also on height and weight. So as a player starts to fatigue, they're probably going to have a little bit more strain because their biomechanics are going to be a little bit more sloppy, a little bit more tired, and they're going to be putting more force through each step. So just some cool features that we have. We have our benchmarking, which I got into a little bit earlier. So you guys have the ability to compare yourselves against different leagues and their averages. You can also choose one of our pro ambassadors like Alex Morgan or Harry Kane. And then within each benchmark or within each metric, you can also compare yourself to yourself, your community, and your pro benchmark. And then you can also change your benchmark at any time in your profile settings. You have a pro score. So this is collecting data through all of your sessions. So in order to unlock a pro score, you do need to have 10 track sessions in order to unlock this. From there, it's utilizing your 8 best sessions out of your previous 20. So it's constantly updating as long as you're tracking these sessions. So if you're not using it, then you're losing it essentially. Okay, so make sure you're tracking your sessions, and then your pro score will update with what's relevant to you at the time. If you click on pro score, you can see your best ever pro score. You can see your very first pro score. You can see how much you've changed from that first to your current. And then you can also see your total sessions tracked and your total duration on a pitch. So if you've played 100 games, it'll show you the total time that you've actually been on the pitch. And it'll show you the changes throughout as well. These are just a few of our pro players that you guys have the access to compare. And again, this can be changed at any time if you want to, change every week or every day. One of my favorite features on the Apex Athlete Series is the trends. Unfortunately, you can't see this on the Coach Series app. So this is something I would highly recommend coaches are maybe touching in with their players periodically to go over their trends. So this is located in the calendar section under trend, or an activity section under trends. So you are able to basically just see how, on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis, how your athletes are progressing. Are they getting better? Was there a shift where now they might be really fatigued and their numbers start to drop off? Did they have an injury that forced them to drop off? Are they returning to play and you're trying to get them to go back up? So these trends are super useful in my opinion. In the calendar section, this is where you will be able to access all your past sessions. So when you open it, it's just going to show you your most recent session. If you click on calendar, then you can go back to any practice or game that you want to see from there. And you're able to basically edit any of the, like if it's a game, you can edit the start time, you can edit the finish time. If it was a game or a practice, home or away, you can edit the pitches if you would like. So these are really useful tools. All right, so community section. So this is that section where I was telling you a lot of players are going to go into and try and join a squad. But this is not where this is happening at. So when you go into squad, you have access to all of the leaderboards. So you have access to a public leaderboard if you're over 18. You can also choose if you're a part of the leaderboard or not in your settings. You can kind of hide yourself if you would like. But basically, this is giving you everybody in the world who is utilizing our product, you'll be able to see on those leaderboards and kind of use to compare yourself against. If you want to join a team, so this is either you can join like your own team. You can also join one with friends, family, anybody else outside. I don't think there's actually a limit on how many teams you can join. So again, friends or family, if you're wanting to compare yourself, you can create a team if one's not already created, and it'll give you a 4-digit code to share with all the players that you want to be part of the team. So if there is already a team created, you're just going to go ahead and enter invite code and then request to join that team. Once you have access, whoever's within that team, you guys can now compete against each other as well. So it's going to give you the top 20 for both public and team leaderboards. So you guys can start comparing then. So what the players are uploading to the coach series, players don't have access to see other, like any of their teammates. So if this is something that you guys want to kind of create that competitive edge or just see where everybody's doing, this is something I highly recommend. So whether you have your team captain, create a team or whatnot, just get them on this, and then this is a really useful tool. And then again, we are creating that E64 leaderboard, so hopefully those are really up and running sooner rather than later. But overall, that's kind of the gist of our athlete series. Is there anything that you guys want, or any questions that you have or want to kind of go over a little bit more?
Well, first off, big thank you, Brooklyn. I know there's a lot of information there, and I think it's a lot of helpful information. I know I was receiving quite a few direct messages within the chat regarding the differences between inputting the team account for the coach series in order for the coaches, for the players to join the coaches team, and then the differences with that community team where they can start sharing the information about the groups. As it relates to kind of what we're doing right now, I think the priority for us is for each player to join the coach athlete series. So if you can maybe go a bit deeper into detail of how they do that, and then
Sorry, you kind of froze there, Jack. Oh, there we go.
So have you got me now?
Yep, there we go. Sorry, go deeper into
how they join the coach athlete series first, and then secondary, how potentially they would create their own team captain group in that community.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and pull it back up. Right. So it's quite simple, and there's not a lot to go into that. I wish I had okay. So basically, you guys are going to go into the more section. Okay, so right through here where it says more down here on the dashboard, this is the key to joining a squad. So for having your coaches be able to see your metrics and start viewing your metrics, we're going to first go into more. You're then going to select a list will pop up. You're then going to select Apex Coach Series Connect. Okay, from there, when you select that, this screen here on the left is going to pop up. All you have to do is you're going to click this plus button up here, which means you just want to add a squad. This here, the screen here will then pop up. Choose enter invite code, and the 4-digit code that your coaches have provided for you. If they have not provided for you, then go ahead and ask them to provide it for you. That 4-digit code, you're just going to enter there. You're going to choose to add squad, and then that's essentially sending a request to your team or to your squad. You do have to be approved into the team before they can actually start sharing metrics. So if you've accidentally joined a team or whatnot, they might deny you. But once you get accepted, when you start syncing sessions, then everything is going to go to your coach. So once you join the squad, let's see, and you get into sync session. So say you just had a game or you just had a practice. You're turning off that tracker. You're going to go into your app. You're going to turn on your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi first, make sure those are enabled. When you go ahead and turn on your your tracker and you click sync session, on the tracker, a download will pop up. So that is basically saying that that tracker now wants to download information to your app. From there, you click sync session. You're going to choose either personal session. If you do not want your coach to see this, this is what you're going to choose. If you do want it to be uploaded to your coach's app, then you're going to choose squad session. So here, this is where squad or your coaches have already inputted and added like practice or games or whatnot. From there, so say you might have a practice and a conditioning that day, just choose which one you want to upload to. And then it's going to go just ask you a little bit more specific information, like you can name it, say conditioning 1 or practice 1 for the day, add your pitch. And once you click view session, all of your data is not only on your phone, but it should also be on your Coach Series app. Coach, do you have any questions on any of that?
No, I think that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So something with this, this is a little bit more specific to, and Neve might have gone over this. So we highly, highly, highly recommend that coaches are creating sessions before players are syncing. If she went over that for you, so you're not merging or anything.
Yeah, we're doing that kind of on a weekly basis. So come Monday, everything's input for the week.
Okay. And you guys can, and the players can always go back, say 3 months and upload a session that they didn't quite upload. So this is not like a one size fits all. They can download it as a personal, go back and edit it so that it's now a squad session. So nothing's really finalized. And then in terms of, so that's just for your coaches. At this point, you cannot see any other players' metrics. So in order to see other players' metrics, you guys are going to go down into community. See, you guys are going to go down into community. From community, this board here is going to pop up on this left hand side. So initially, before you've added any teams, it's only going to say public leaderboard if you're over 18, I believe. So you can start seeing, people all over the world for the top 4 metrics. If you guys want to join teams, create, whether it's in your own team or friends outside of the squad, whatever it may be, who's utilizing our technology, you're just going to go ahead and create team if it has not been done already. If you create team, you're basically essentially the team captain of that. So you can choose to get rid of players from that team, accept players into that team, name it, delete it, etc. And that's going to give you a 4-digit code that you're going to now share with the teammates and the people who you want to access these leaderboards. If you're the person receiving that 4-digit code, you're just going to go ahead and choose enter invite code. You're going to input that 4-digit code and it's going to ask you if this is a team that you want to join. You're just going to confirm that. And I believe you have to get accepted. And then once you're accepted, you now have access to all the leaderboards. So it's pretty simple. It's just differentiating which one's a coach series and which one's a team. Is there any questions on that there?
No, I think that's great. I think, and I was unaware of that community team as well. So I think a lot of our players who've been struggling to get into the series have been doing this. So that's for sure.
The squad and the team, it's quite a
interchangeable.
It's not the best use of words, basically.
For sure. So I don't have any other questions in the chat right now. So, and I know we're tight on time. So what I'd like to do is kind of leave it there for today. Again, Brooklyn, thank you very much for your time. Guys, what I will continue to do along with this recording, I'll send out some resources for the academy. So that will be the PDF file that Brooklyn was sharing just there. I'll also be sharing a couple of YouTube playlists for some tutorials on different aspects of the device. I know I'm a bit better of watching a video than reading a PDF document. I'm sure some of the boys are as well. And that being said, obviously I'll follow up on a couple of more questions that are more direct and personal as well. Thank you guys for jumping on this evening. Have a great weekend. Good luck for your games. MLS 1 tomorrow and MLS 2 both tomorrow and Sunday. Everyone else have a great weekend. Parents, thank you very much. And Brooklyn, we'll speak to you very, very soon.
You got it. And Jack, if you have any questions, I know I am more aligned with your time zone. Feel free to reach out. Okay. Especially if there's some technical things that you need done sooner rather than later, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Right. Can I ask real quick about goalkeepers? Is there going to be anything in the future for goalkeepers?
It's something that we're hoping to implement. However, big changes like that do take a little bit of time.